There was a time when the word Halo didn't just mean a game. It meant a moment, a movement, midnight launches, LAN parties, friendships forged through fire on Blood Gulch. It was more than a shooter. It was the shooter. And then it wasn't. Not all at once, not in a single moment, but gradually, slowly, and then all too obviously, Halo lost its way. In this deep dive, we'll trace how the Halo series defined a generation, how its successors struggled to recapture that glory, and why the time may have finally come to lay the franchise to rest. Because not every hero gets a triumphant ending. Some just fade away. There are some games that define a console. Fewer still define a generation. And then once in a long while, there's a game that defines what gaming is capable of. Halo was one of those. Not because it was flashy, not because it was the biggest, but because from the very beginning it understood that games are more than mechanics. Halo had presence, atmosphere, tone. It was born not as a blockbuster, but as a myth. And for its first decade, through Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, and onto Reach, it carried that myth like a torch in the dark, each entry adding something, a feeling, a texture, a layer of meaning. It was never just about the guns or the aliens. It was about the weight of what you were doing, the sense of fighting not just for survival, but for something sacred. But after Reach, something shifted. The torch didn't just get passed to a new studio, it was dropped, and no one ever quite picked it up again. Since then, Halo has become a franchise in search of itself, confused, reactive, chasing relevance like a shadow. A once mythic story reduced to a brand in need of quarterly updates. In 2001, gaming was at a crossroads. PC shooters were still the gold standard. Quake, Unreal, Half-Life. On consoles, first-person shooters were clumsy at best. Aim assist was a crutch. Controllers weren't built for precision. And then Halo arrived. Combat Evolved didn't just solve control, it reshaped the entire pacing of an FPS. Instead of frantic chaos, Halo was composed. Wide open areas, enemies that responded intelligently, a perfect loop of shoot, dodge, reload, grenade, melee. You weren't just reacting, you were orchestrating. But more than that, Halo brought a sense of place. The Halo ring wasn't just a level, it was a question. Every structure hummed with an unknown purpose. The skyboxes stretched forever. The soundscape, that low, eerie, choral whisper, suggested that something far older and greater than you was watching, waiting. And that feeling carried forward. Combat Evolved didn't just launch the original Xbox, it justified it. In an era of split-screen GoldenEye nostalgia and twitchy PC fragfests, Halo brought cinematic ambition, epic world-building, and a control scheme that finally made console FPS feel right. It sold over 5 million copies, but its impact can't be measured in units alone. Master Chief became a myth. The Flood gave us nightmares, and the soundtrack, it didn't score a game, it scored our childhood. Halo 2, it changed everything again. With over 8 million units sold on Xbox, it ushered in online multiplayer for console. Xbox Live was Halo 2 for millions. And even if its story was divisive, the ambition was undeniable. You weren't just a hero anymore, you were the other side. And while the story stumbled under its own ambition, the world itself felt enormous and alive. The Covenant weren't monsters, they were believers, and you the player weren't just shooting enemies, you were unraveling ideology. And then came Halo 3. Not a reinvention, but a fulfillment. It brought closure. It didn't try to one-up itself with spectacle. It understood that endings matter. The wait and silence can say more than explosions ever could. In its final act, Halo 3 didn't leave us with a victory, it left us with a goodbye. Halo 3 was a finale, but Bungie wasn't quite done yet. ODST was smaller in scale but rich in mood. No Spartans, no dual wielding, just rain-soaked streets and a noir atmosphere. It didn't set the world on fire, but it showed Halo could stretch. And just when it could have stopped, Bungie gave us Reach. A game that starts with the ending already written. Every step forward is a step closer to failure. But it's the kind of failure that defines heroes. The kind that gives death meaning. Reach was Bungie's swan song. It carried all the confidence of a studio saying, this is who we are, and this is how we say goodbye. Together, those 4 games weren't just a successful franchise, They were a complete mythology. They didn't follow trends, they set them. They taught an entire generation of players that games could be massive and personal, tactical and emotional, ancient and immediate. And then it ended. Or at least it should have. When 343 Industries took the reins, they weren't inheriting a brand, they were inheriting a religion. And they approached it like engineers, not storytellers. Their task was impossible, to make Halo new again, without changing what it was. But in trying to walk that impossible line, they lost both parts. Halo 4 was beautiful, polished, emotional, ambitious. It tried to explore Master Chief as a man, not a myth. It wanted to give Cortana feelings. It wanted to ask what if Spartans weren't invincible. And those questions were worth asking, but not in this universe, because Halo's power had never come from emotion. It came from mystery. The more we learned about the Forerunners, the less awe they inspired. The more we heard Chief speak, the less he represented us. Halo 4 didn't understand that sometimes saying less is saying more. That mythology needs distance, that when you define a symbol, you limit it. Then Halo 5 took things even further and fell apart completely. Its story wasn't just confused, it was soulless. A bait-and-switch marketing campaign that promised conflict and delivered banality. Characters drifted, plot threads went nowhere, and the myth, the gravity of the Halo universe, collapsed into exposition and digital blueprints. The game's mechanics were sharp, the movement felt fluid, but it was a Halo built in a vacuum, echoing the language of other shooters without understanding what made Halo unique. It was fast when it should have been deliberate, it was loud when it should have been still. At that point, Halo wasn't leading anything, it was following trends that had already peaked. And then came Halo Infinite. Marketed as a return to form, a new beginning, a redemption arc, and for a brief, flickering moment, it almost worked. The opening hours of Infinite's campaign feel like coming home. Zeta Halo stretches out before you like a memory reawakened. The grapple hook is exhilarating, the music stirs something real. But then the cracks return, the story peters out, the live service roadmap falls apart, modes go missing, features launch years late, and the flicker of hope, gone. Infinite proved that nostalgia isn't enough. A grappling hook can't save a myth. The soul of Halo isn't in its mechanics, it's in its tone. And that tone has been missing for over a decade. There's a reason Halo meant so much. It wasn't just about gameplay, it was about when it arrived. It came before social media atomized our communities, before games were dissected to death in day one patches and Reddit threads. It was an era when sitting next to a friend in split screen wasn't a compromise, it was the point. Halo was shared. It was something you played with friends, talked about at school, waited in line for. It existed in a moment when games could still feel monolithic, when a single release could unite a player base across continents. That moment doesn't exist anymore, and neither does Halo that belonged to it. Today, Halo is a brand under management. It's passed from creative team to creative team, scrutinized, rebooted, restarted, and along the way it has lost all certainty. No one quite knows what a new Halo game should feel like anymore, only what it used to feel like. The tragedy isn't that Halo failed, it's that it wasn't allowed to end. Because Halo told a complete story. It gave us rise, fall, sacrifice, legacy. It made its point, and everything since has felt like an echo. Louder maybe, but emptier. There's a reason we remember Halo with such intensity, because in that brief window of time, it did what few games ever do. It gave us a myth to believe in, something ancient, something solemn, something that didn't ask us to laugh or grind or tweet about our loadouts. It just asked us to believe. But myths aren't meant to be updated every 3 years. They're meant to be remembered. Maybe that's what Halo needs now. Not another reboot, not another comeback, just peace. Let the Ringworld sleep, let the Chief rest. Let the past matter because we've chosen to stop dragging it into the present. If you still believe Halo has something left to give, let me know. If you remember those midnight launches, those LAN parties, staying up until 4 o'clock in the morning, Diet Coke, Mountain Dew all around you, having played Halo for hours with your friends on Xbox Live, let me know. And as always, I've been Devoured Games. If you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane, this trip once again onto the ring, then please do like and subscribe. And until next time, something, something, something.